Yeah. So why are we concerned about traditional and indigenous knowledge? Is because this is part and parcel of indigenous people. Okay. So environmental conservation and disaster mitigation measures are part and parcel of indigenous living community. Okay, so they tend to respond in a way they have understood the nature. Okay, so that knowledge is important as we today, so that it can be integrated with science and then make it more adaptable and usable. Okay. Okay, so these communities have built this knowledge over a period of time. Okay, so it is not there's one saying that disaster is not new. Okay, so disaster mitigation is not new subject because it is old, as old as the existence of human life itself. Okay, so from the time of existence, people have been responding to a particular disaster with the kind of understanding they have. Okay, and they were adapting or coping to such disasters through historically. So what we are discussing today is how this knowledge is essential, how this traditional or indigenous knowledge will help in will help the science itself. Okay, so that's the point that I would like to draw your attention to. Actually, yeah, this is what. So, indigenous knowledge should be considered as a complement to the scientific knowledge, so that the scientific knowledge becomes more acceptable in other in these communities as well. And often what happens is because of the way in which we are urbanizing and the way in which technology is taking all this forward, these kind of knowledge is actually getting extinct, and very hardly documentations are available for many of the good practices that we had from historically. Okay, so there are three keywords that we can discuss about: indigenous knowledge, local knowledge, and traditional knowledge. How is it different? Whether it is the same, or is there slight difference in understanding? As far as indigenous knowledge is concerned, this is culturally integrated knowledge of a small or marginal group. Okay, local knowledge is rooted in local or regional culture and in ecology. Traditional knowledge is handed down from generation to generation through oral means, or maybe through drawings or some of that nature. Okay, so indigenous knowledge is inherent with the people. Okay, and there's some kind of practices that is there in the local community that has evolved over a period of time. Okay, so that collective practice is called as local knowledge, and which will be that will become a part and parcel of the culture. Okay, so in as far as traditional knowledge is concerned, it is the knowledge that it is passed on from one generation to another to on a specific topic or on a specific disaster, or for that matter on any subject. Having said that, there are many examples that we can look on this, how traditional knowledge or how resourceful or this knowledge that we can tap and that can be applied for a specific disaster to come out with. So, for example, some of the if you read papers, maybe I'll share at the end of the class. I will share some 4 papers on this line, where you can read more about these kind of observations in that. For example, use of strips of mangrove forest to observe tidal waves, or maybe use of locally developed genetically not genetic. When you say genetically, don't look out very sophisticated labs and all. This can be done very easily. Okay, so diversity of crops, so that in case of disaster, this can be alternate crop can be taken it up. Okay, and some communities, they tend to move from one place to another to uh, to to withstand or to prevent the disaster. Yes, someone is looking for something. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Yeah, and also it strategies for early. This can act as maybe not as a preventive measures, but many a times these knowledges, these collective knowledge will help in early warning systems, or developing early warning systems. Okay, for I think we have seen in the in case of, I don't know, earthquake, or in case of tsunami, in case of cyclone, we have seen the early warning system and how it works. How, yeah, I think in case of cyclone, what is said in the initial 24 hours, what kind of information is given, and how actually a depression is identified, how the depression is converted into cyclone and all. There are different observations are done. Okay, so these kind of traditional practices can also help in identification of such warnings, that can help in improving this early warning systems as well. So indigenous people continue to apply traditional knowledge on early warning and strategies for mitigation of negative consequences of disaster. Unfortunately, what is missing now is the systematic and in-depth study of such practices. Okay, so in fact, if you see from research perspective, there are a lot of funding available from Government of India and also from Europe and US to study this kind of practices and understand indigenous community. Okay, so for example, in our case also, under one of the European Union funded project called BIRUCOM, building resilient urban communities. So we did take one indigenous community, and then in Himachal, and we studied about how their settlement pattern, how they cope to extreme climate conditions, and also what are the traditional practices they do. Okay, I'll also be showing very briefly one paper which is in publication stage, what we have done. Okay, so there are a lot of fundings also available in this subject, and also probably you must be aware, the present government is giving a lot of emphasis for this kind of studies. Okay, so a lot of funding is available to take it up. So it is crucial to document why we should be doing this, because this will help in understanding the disaster better. Okay, so from science perspective, we are taking, we do have advancement, we do have technological advancement, we do have theoretical advancement, and all that is fine. Also, if we take communities adaptation strategies, their coping strategies into the science, then we will have very comprehensive comprehensive tool to prevent disaster, or to make the communities more resilient. And actually, this kind of integration can take place in climate change issues, and also on broad disaster reduction as well, because because these people have been using different techniques of their own based on their understanding about the local climate and local topography and so on and so forth. Okay, so normally these kind of knowledge is passed on from family to family, and that knowledge is actually termed as indigenous knowledge. Okay, so the coping mechanism they adapt have been originated by their family and community wisdom, which are considered as indigenous knowledge or indigenous system in place. There are so many examples. What I have put is very briefly something. This may look very odd. What is this? Can we infer? Can we take this as a science and then adapt it in some documents, or can we follow it? You may feel like that. Okay. However, if you see, there are many documented studies across India and across world as well, where indigenous community have adapted to these kind of strategies. Okay, for example, unusual barking of street dogs. Okay, so I'll share the papers. Okay, these are not my observations. I'll share the scientific papers where this has been published. Okay, and will published in very reputed journals. Okay, so unusual barking of street dogs in a group is actually associated with the tremors and earthquake. Okay, black ants storing eggs, which means there is a possibility of rain immediately. Okay, screaming of frogs also indicates that there will be a heavy rainfall in coming days or coming weeks. Appearance of red sky on southwest direction indicates rain within this period of time. Or snails climbing up to trees, or earthworm crawling plenty in and around, or ants shifting from place, and so on and so forth. These are also observed to be early sign for heavy rainfall. Okay, so rainbow on the eastern side is observed to be there is a chance of drought in coming years, and if it falls on the western side, then it indicates that there is a rain immediately. Okay, so redness in the sky after sunset indicates cyclone or storm disaster within 7 days. These are some of the observations. Okay, these are not the exhaustive observations, of course. I thought I'll just put some examples here, so that what do you mean by traditional knowledge or indigenous knowledge? Okay, so traditional knowledge or indigenous knowledge can also be this nature, which people have observed over a period of time, and then they tend to predict. Okay, if this happens, probably there could be a rain, or there could be drought, something like that. This is one aspect of traditional knowledge. The other aspect of traditional knowledge which we are interested is on the construction itself. Okay, so there are several indigenous construction typologies that showed excellent performance in case of earthquake. This is specific to earthquake. Here I've taken one or two examples to show how the community has responded to the earthquake. Okay, so earthquake engineering is a recent subject. Probably you all must be aware. This is a very new phenomenon, or maybe you can say 100 years. Okay, so where we have been talking about earthquake very seriously, and a lot of new ideas have been brought into the codes and construction practices. Otherwise, how the communities, indigenous community, have been building houses or community buildings, how those buildings were responding to the earthquake or any other disaster is a case study for us. Okay, so these typologies were developed much before formal emergence of earthquake engineering, and highlights the fact that a lot of earthquake safety can be achieved through use of common sense, provided there is a commitment to do so. So, for example, I have taken one. This is very random example. Okay, there's no. I have not put things in very systematic manner because I don't know from where to start and where to end these practices. Okay, so from because we have a very diversified landmass. If you see north, west, there are certain practices. Northeast, certain practices. Okay, central India has certain practices. Southern India has certain practices. Okay, so if you go into details of each and every aspect, there will be, uh, of course, there's no ready-made information available as well. The other drawback, other problem will be the exhaustive nature of the topic itself. Okay, so I'm just giving you some indications that what are the things can be discussed. For example, in case of earthquake in the northwest part of India, the G construction. Okay, probably you must have heard about this kind of word. Is common in the Himachal and northern west part of the country. These construction techniques are used to withstand the earthquake. Okay, so this is one example of the G construction, where probably now you can relate to our contemporary examples also. We ended with this. Okay, cross bracing or lateral bracing of structure is the most recommended structural measures to prevent serious damages to the building. Okay, however, if you see traditionally, this has been a practice. Okay, people have been using these kind of techniques way back than what we are discussing now. Okay, so the G construction consists of a burnt clay brick masonry placed inside a timber frame. You can see that this is the timber frame. Wherever you see, you will have the frame on which the brick is laid, so as to create a patchwork of small size masonry panels that are confined to timber members. And additionally, the cross elements are timbers are added, lateral elements are added to withstand the shaking. Okay, and also this is another example for tack construction technique. Due to confinement provided by the timber element, the diagonal shear cracks do not propagate into the panels. So these kind of elements help in preventing serious damages to the structures. Okay, so this is very briefly one example that you can think of. And one of the on the north east part, Assam type is also one construction technique that is prevalently discussed in the literatures, where again we have a framed the structures made of timber or bamboo for construction. Okay, so there are so many such practices are available for different things that we can look for. Okay, so apart from this, what I have done is I will be sharing some reading material that you go through, so that you will have comprehensive understanding about indigenous knowledge system. Okay, so of that I would say the first paper is on climate change adaptation, linking indigenous knowledge with Western science for effective adaptation. Okay, so this title itself is a good indication for us to talk about why are we concerned about indigenous knowledge. Okay, one, of course, we should appreciate how the knowledge, how traditionally the problem has been addressed. The second most important thing is how this can be integrated with the Western science. Okay, that is what we are interested in. Okay, so here I'm not going to go through these papers in depth, but I'll give you a hint what is discussed in this paper and what you can look for in this paper. Suppose if you are taking a case study and you want to know how traditional knowledge can be first identified and then explored and documented. If that is the intent, your intention, your objective is to identify a traditional knowledge and develop your understanding about it. Third, you want to document it. How do you do that? Okay, so in this paper you will get that kind of framework. Of course, this is for a different case study, but the kind of method adapted will be useful. In fact, we use this for studying one of our case study. I'll also show our work as well, where we use the same method. What is being said here, we followed the same method for documenting one of the case study in the northwestern part of India, in Himachal. Yeah, so these things probably, if you read through how the narratives of local community, or the storytelling in the local community, or by observations made by the local community or by visiting it, how do we document it, how it can be converted into some useful reading materials for implementation. Okay, so this is actually done for one of the case studies in the in South Africa, South African country. Okay, so this is one paper you can just glance through, and if you are looking for some method, how do you do that? Okay, so this will be a good example. One, the other paper which I would request you to go through is vernacular practices as a basis for formulating building regulations for hill areas. This is one of the papers published by from IIT Roorkee on specific strategies describing how settlements are planned traditionally, what are the techniques it has been adapted, okay, and what structural measures, what construction techniques can be thought of. And also they have discussed little bit more about, for example, in wall itself there are specific construction. Daji wall is what we saw. I'll show you a Katkoni construction which we did in one of the villages in Kullu, and there are other such wall types are available in different locations, and how they respond. Okay, so these are some examples you can see. Probably this will also will give you an idea what different traditional techniques have been adapted in the conventional or in modern day practice. This is another reference that I would like to give. The other reference is role of indigenous knowledge in climate change adaptation, a study with special reference to northwestern India. This is again paper which focuses on traditional practices, very brief paper on what are the major traditional practices with respect to climate change. How it can be done. For example, this particular table, how water is stored, okay, how disaster can be prevented from the perspective of preventive measures from the perspective of the traditional techniques. For example, like we have temple tanks, kunds, or of those nature. Okay, aries, for example, in Tamil Nadu we use this word, right? So in this paper there is a very brief discussion about how indigenous knowledge can be used for climate change adaptation strategies. Okay, so this is one, and last paper is again on science and technology interventions in traditional architecture of Himachal. Okay, so specific construction techniques have been described here in a very detailed manner. Maybe those who are interested in this subject, probably you can look for it. One last reference, probably that this I will not share, but I will show you. We have done one case study. Okay, I think I have closed it. Just one second. Yeah, we have done one case study on role of cultural heritage in conservation of natural environment amongst the indigenous community of Kullu. This is actually done as a part of European Union funded project where we went and studied one of the communities in Kullu, one of the local communities in Kullu, and then they documented three aspects of um, indigenous knowledge. One is their practice, their belief, how that belief is helping in conservation of natural heritage. Second, what are these? How the settlement is planned and laid so that it can withstand the disaster. Third one is the construction techniques, especially on Katkuni construction technique. Okay, so I'll just briefly, I'll not be. This is in the publication. It is under review. I think it may take another 6 months time to get published. Yeah, so probably I'll not be sharing this, but I can show you what is the highlights of it. So in this, what we have done is documentation of cultural heritage exhibited by indigenous Fairy community of Kullu region in Himachal. What we have demonstrated, it demonstrated the inherent nature of community for preservation and protection. Actually, what do you mean by inherent nature? By default, they don't disturb nature. Okay, so they worship nature actually. So folklores like associated with devis and devtas, how that helps in safeguarding the nature. Okay, so how this is why we are using the word inherent nature. Okay, so they actually worship the nature, and that helps in majorly in protection of natural environment. Okay, and the need for specific Katkuni construction technique in the region. Okay, so I'll just show you some pictures. This is the case area that where we went. It is a small community where we studied a bit about their belief system, their culture and the cultural practices and their rituals that help in preserving the nature. Second one is the physical documentation of a temple in the Kullu region, where different construction techniques which are indigenous to the local climate and the and based on their understanding how these kind of construction techniques are helping the community to build structure which are standing after thousands of years. Okay, so that's the lessons that we are interested in. Yeah, and this is one resort that where we stayed, and this is also one of the building constructed using this Katkuni style of construction. Okay, and in fact you can see one of the oldest possible structures that is still there in the villages built using this structure. Why we are discussing this and what is this why we are interested in this. Like I said, there is a lot of interest among, of course, there's a lot of focus given by the present ruling government also, and also from the other funding agencies in Europe and US, and also from for the benefit of all as well. We should identify some indigenous communities like this, and then if they have a specific practices and knowledge, that needs to be preserved. Okay, because it will be useful to understand the disaster holistically. Okay, so in this case, for example, this has been funded by European Union under capacity building program under Erasmus. Okay, so we did this exercise through this funding agency. Yeah, so I think I will. Sorry, yes.
Sir, what's the reason of the in Katkoni style? What's